welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. You guys have been awesome. Thank you very much. I've gotten a lot of interesting comments and suggestions, and there were so many interesting questions that as I read them, I kind of rearranged the order, and it turned out they kind of made a story. So it's kind of, there were a bunch of prepper questions, and they lined up to where I think that they could be discussed in a chronological order. So the first comment question was, what makes you think that Americans are going to get off their lazy ass and do anything about what's going on in the world, right? They would rather watch football, watch baseball, eat, be lazy, right? Americans are lazy. Well, for the most part, they are. But for those of us preppers, it's a different story. Still, are people going to get off their lazy asses and go march to Washington and fix problems? No, they're not. Will they even march to their state capital and try and change things? No, they won't. But when shit starts coming down their street, right, that gets people's attention. That will get everyone off the couch, right? If shit is hitting the fan, you aren't going to care about the basketball game. You're going to be worried about whether or not somebody's shooting up your neighborhood or going to come stomping through the door and stomp your liver out, right? So only the most lazy, ignorant, foolhardy people are going to stay on their couch. But that's assuming that shit just hits the fan all at once. Let's just say, well, maybe there's a disruption in the distribution of food, right? The delivery of food to the stores. I'm sure once that fat, lazy person on the couch starts having problems, with an empty fridge, they're going to start asking some questions and start taking some action, right? It does make things a little bit silly, right, to think that someone's going to just lay on their couch while they starve to death. No, they won't. When they call the pizza guy and he doesn't bring anything, it's going to get their attention. They will start taking action. You could say, well, are Venezuelans the laziest people on the planet? Well, no, but it's taken them, 3 years before their mega inflation got so bad, right, that they decided to do something about it, and they finally elected a president that's not a socialist, supposedly. Well, so that was it. Will people get off the couch? Yeah, they will. They're going to have to, one way or another, come hell or high water. Now, once the stupid is going on outside, whether it's shit hits the fan a little bit or a lot, the question came up, what if I've got nowhere to go? Right? Well, mother necessity is going to make people do a lot of things they don't want to do. Right? People are going to have to figure out what the hell is going on. You as a prepper are very fortunate. So count yourself as such, because you see what's coming and you have an opportunity to get food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, etc. Right? And put together a plan. For everyone else, it's not going to be easy either, and it's certainly not going to be as easy as you've had it. They're not going to have store of food. They're not going to have thought about what do we do in this situation. Right? Whatever food you have, you're going to want to try and keep private or hidden because you don't want your idiotic neighbors, if you have them, to come and bother you. If you've got nowhere to go, yeah, you're stuck at your house. So you're going to have to do the very best you can, protecting yourself, feeding yourself, your family, etc. So what do you do with loud kids? Well, in all times in history, kids learn how to be quiet really fast. Right? Because every time they scream and yell, someone kicks in the door, they're going to learn, right? There's consequences for misbehaving. And I know that's a big one. You don't tell my kid to shut up. You don't tell my kid to be quiet. I'll tell you what. They either have to learn to behave and obey in these situations, or it's going to cause trouble. Right? That's when Darwinian practice actually works, actually has its place. Right? Those who refuse end up losing their lives, and it's a horrible thing. It's not a joke, but it's going to happen, right? And another thing we get to is, what about food? If you can't get out and go to the country, which I still don't recommend highly, if you live in the city, where are you going to go in the country that there aren't already other people doing just that? Bugging out to campgrounds. Now you got campgrounds full of people with 3 or 4 days worth of food. They're going to run out of food, and they're going to start beating the shit out of each other for it. You might as well stay home. At least you know the neighborhood and you have some idea of where to get the necessities you need. But what are those necessities? Food and water. If you have to get water, go down to the local stream, pond, river, wherever you can find it. Because if your tap doesn't have water coming out of it, what are you going to do? Right? People who don't have room to store bottled water, right? I don't have room to store bottled water, but I'm not counting on that. I have other water resources. Something to think about, part of your plan. But in order to sanitize and purify water, right, to make it potable, drinkable, so that you don't get dysentery and die from E. coli, you need to boil it. The good part about boiling water is water doesn't smell like anything, right? A fire does, but water doesn't. So you can heat water up and make it safely consumable. Food, on the other hand, is something that, yes, another viewer brought this up. Why should I bother? As soon as I start cooking food, someone's going to smell it, and they're going to come get you. That is very true. Food does put off odors when it's hot, and it does attract people. I mean, if you remember, anytime you're hungry, right, that kitchen will suck you right in. Well, when shit hits the fan, it's going to be 10 times as effective at attracting unwanted attention. So how are we going to deal with that? As preppers, this is my recommendation. Get food that does not need to be heated to be eaten. A cold can of beans is better than a hot can of beans. Now, I understand that if it's cold outside, sure would be nice to have hot food, right? But you don't, if it's so hot it's putting off lots of odor, you're going to attract attention. Meals ready to eat, MREs, anything you can that's already cooked and safe to eat cold. Can of tuna fish, right? Think about the different things you can eat. Cans of vegetables, they're safe, they're cooked already, and you don't have to heat them up. Now, as far as safely heating things up so you don't attract a lot of attention, one of the things we did when I was in the service is we would put boxes of MREs near the campfire. Yes, there's a fire, but it doesn't smell like food. But it just warms it up so it's not 60 degrees or 50 degrees, right? The cans or the pouches that the MREs come in, whatever it is you have to eat, it gets warm just sitting next to it. 100 degrees, 105 degrees. That's certainly a lot better than eating 60-degree food. But just remember, the hotter it gets, as soon as you open that package, some smell will get out. That is going to be a huge risk and threat and shit hits the fan. One, people are out of food, so they're hungry. They're scared, they're pissed off, right? And they smell that. And not only does it remind them that they don't have food, it reminds them that you do have food, right? And they're going to go looking for it. They're going to want to know why you have and they don't. This desire to survive and this frustration and fear and anger that people are going to have that they don't have what they need. They felt tricked by their government because they think they believe that they were supposed to be guaranteed food. This is America, damn it. Why don't we have food? So, right, it's a risk. Food's a huge risk. Now, apart from canned foods and MREs, meals ready to eat, what else can you eat? Oatmeal, it takes water. Rice, you let it soak. Noodles, you let it soak. Right? Hot water makes things cook faster because the water penetrates the noodles or the rice quicker when it's hot. That's why we heat things, right? It helps cook them faster. But you can just let rice sit in clean water and it'll soak up the water. It just takes a while. Right? It's just kind of some common sense, some practice. In fact, I do recommend practice. Right? But yes, when you have food, if you live in an apartment, if you live in a tight, cramped neighborhood or an urban area, there's going to be a lot more people around you. They're going to be looking at you, looking at each other. Yes, it's going to be a very scary situation. Trying to get out of town, you may get stuck on the road. Right? So that's not safe. If you do get out of town, yeah, you might end up in a campsite or at a lake or a river, someplace you know about, but everyone else knows about too. After all, there was a road that led you there in the first place. So it's led others there. We can count on those sorts of things. Right? So these questions were asked. So what comes next? Right? What comes next? How long are you going to make it? right? That's a big question. Well, how long are we going to make this? 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, a year? What happens when our food runs out? That's why you need to be planning what could come, right? What could happen? Do I need to have some seeds? Well, this, unlike prepping, doesn't take nearly the amount of money. It does. I recommend practice on gardening, how to grow squashes and zucchinis and tomatoes and corn, whatever grows in your area, beans, peas, right? And then understanding how much a plant will yield and how much you need to eat requires you to grow so much. And it's going to take water. It's going to take effort. Nothing's free, right? But having seeds on hand. Yeah, if we have to go more than a few months, or if shit has hit the fan and the growing season has started, mid to late spring, early summer, whether or not you think shit is going to end, shit hits the fan is going to end, might as well plant a garden. It's certainly not going to hurt you to have extra food on hand if there's food being delivered by the government and by the distribution system, but it's more expensive. It's not as reliable to get. In a lot of cases, it's not safe. Right now, we have a problem with food going bad. Bad vegetables and spinach, bad meat, right? We have food going bad already, and things are beautiful and perfect, right? Well, when shit hits the fan and food starts getting delivered, what do you think the odds are of getting perfect food every time? Starts to go down, does it not? So the idea of having your own food. One of the things I'm going to do, trust me on this, is if we start having these problems, I'm going to take food. If the government is giving out food or the government is selling food or providing food, I'm going to take it, but I'm not going to eat it. I'm going to store it for a week or 2 weeks and see if everyone else gets sick and gets poisoned. Right? Because, there's bad people out there could end up trying to poison everybody. Right? And there are going to be accidents. If they're in a big rush at the food factories trying to get produce processed and meat products processed, they may make some mistakes. They may take some shortcuts. They may leave out a step or two that's important, like pasteurization. And you're going to end up with, getting served food that has not been properly canned, properly processed. And the other one was, another question that came up was, well, what happens in a year when I run out of food? Can I, what should I do? Should I find somebody who's got a little farm going and offer? And the answer is hell yeah. Right? If there's somebody in the neighborhood, right, that is dealing with shit hits the fan and organizing things, it would behoove you to work with them. It would behoove everyone in the neighborhood to work with them and do their part and pull together and act as a protectionary unit, right? Working together, protecting the neighborhood, the area. And this is rural or urban, right? Because, many hands make light work, right? Sharing the workload, and then you're all looking out for each other. You're all thinking in a way different than we do today, which is to look out for ourselves and only ourselves, right? As preppers, no one else wants to join us. Essentially, no one wants to join us, right? We're kooks. We're crazy, so we keep to ourselves, right? We do our prepping quietly, and we stay off to the side and out of sight, and we're going to let all these ding-dongs get rid of themselves. But ultimately, ideally, people who are cooperative and aren't thieves and scumbags like government officials, right? They're ideal to have because they understand the situation and that work needs to be done, and that only by working hard will everyone benefit. Right? So a community garden, week 1 of shit hits the fan, people are going to try stealing from it. Right? People are going to try screwing other people over. Why? Because they haven't learned their lessons yet. But that 3 months in and 6 months in and 9 months into shit hits the fan, people are going to learn good manners with each other. There's going to be a lot of people getting shot, unfortunately, because they've got bad manners. There's going to be people who learn manners. They're going to learn that nothing is free. They're going to learn that if you want something, you have to work for it. They're going to learn that you only get what you earn. All of these lessons are going to be learned. And people are going to learn them along the way, whether they're preppers or not, right? Out of necessity, a lot of good people are going to get to be a lot better people. As preppers, we have an opportunity to not necessarily be leaders if you don't want to, but rather to get through, right, the difficult parts better off and easier than most. Right? I'm not doing what I do so I can be the community warlord. And I'm not doing what I do so that I can go piss on everyone else's graves. I'm not doing any of that. Right? I just want to get through the mess that's coming and through to the other side. And those people that are in my group and those people that I love, I want them to make it as well. Right? I want them to be healthy. I want them to be safe. Right? That's why you should practice with your self-defense weapons, so that they're familiar to your hands and your eyes and your senses. So that rather than focusing on looking at the gun the whole time, you can actually look at the people you need to defend yourself from once they need to be addressed. You know, you don't want to be staring at your finger and making sure it's on the trigger instead of looking through the sights and getting a front sight tip, you know, and the sight alignment, sight picture all carried through, and then dispatching your enemies if they make themselves a life-threatening problem. Yeah. Sight alignment, front sight picture. Anyways, you know, getting that training in, it's important. So we just kind of carried it through. What are people going to do? They're going to come off their couch. What are they going to do? They're going to be mad and stupid, right? Are you going to go get stuck with the rest of them? No. If you're going to stay where you're at, how are you going to do it and get through? If you're new to prepping, or if you're in one of these situations where you can't be out in the country with, you know, lots of deer and bunny rabbits and everything else that's really not out here in the country, right? If you need to think about what it is you've got and where you're at and how you're going to do it. If you can't fill your room, right, from floor to ceiling with food, how are you going to get food? Start thinking about where you're going to get food. Right? Think about what the government's going to try doing. Think about what your neighbors are going to try doing. Think about who else would be a prepper. Start trying to observe these people in your neighborhoods. Right? Is that quiet person quiet because they're Jeffrey Dahmer-like, or is that quiet person quiet when shit hits the fan because they're thinking, they're intelligent? And if they're intelligent and thinking, right, what does that tell you? That they might be a prepper as well? And some preppers out there are just going to have 2 weeks worth of food, or 4 weeks. They're not going to have 6 months and a year, right? But that other prepper that only has 2 weeks or a month's worth of food, do they have a secondary plan? And if you're helping them, maybe they'll help you, and maybe they'll let you in on the plan. You know, and again, a lot of this, in the big cities especially, it's going to require a different type of mentality and cooperation than country folks. And country folks are just a little bit different. City folks are definitely a little bit different, right? So, understanding your environment. And then again, when I say you need food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, you've got to know that 10 miles around you, that radius. Because contained within that, that's your world. And if you have food to live, say, a year or two in that world, then that's great. And if you don't, you need to think about and understand that world around you. Where will you get the food? And I'm not talking about becoming a marauder and killing people and taking their food. I'm talking about thinking about where food would be, what you could do to participate in getting it, right? I'm talking about small farm, neighborhood garden, teaming up with other folks, pooling resources. Right? Maybe someone has a lot of guns. You have no guns, but you have lots of food. Maybe it's the other way around. You've got lots of guns, but you know someone, or you discover as shit hits the fan happens, as you get 1 weekend and 2 weekend and 3 weekend, you realize that that guy down the street or around the block, you've heard that he's doing okay. And once we get past the real serious shit, right? Like the first 30 days, the first 45 days, when most of the numbskulls have eliminated themselves by showing everyone how stupid they are, and violent, and aggressive, and wrong, morally wrong, when those people have basically eliminated themselves from the equation, in a serious shit hits the fan, the people that are left are going to be more cooperative and want to help each other. I guarantee it. Nobody wants to see Mad Max. Nobody wants to see Mad Max play out to where there's just 2 people left out of 100. Right? Nobody wants that. And also the people that are left after 30 or 45 or 60 days, they're going to realize, yeah, shit's pretty bad. We need to start working on part 2 of the plan, right? Creating a sustainable level of food. And if it's just a shit hits the fan light, once again, shit hits the fan light, food starts coming back in, deliveries, electricity's on, at least intermittently, water comes out the faucet, at least intermittently. Right? You need to think about how you're going to do things. If there's no natural gas or no electricity, how are you going to cook food? Right? You're going to want a little little rocket stove, a little home cooking setup. And it doesn't take a whole lot of fuel to cook food. And once again, don't cook food unless you have to. Because what does that do? It attracts unwanted attention. It takes a lot more energy to cook food than it does otherwise. Right? Because you've got to gather wood or flammable material. You've got to, put it in the stove. Now you've got pots that have burnt on food, because it's different cooking over an open fire than it is in a kitchen. So you're going to have dirty pots that need to be cleaned. I mean, there's a lot of work. Our culture, our world makes things so easy. Microwaves and pre-done food. Right? It's a lot different when shit hits the fan. So these people that ask the questions, one, thank you very much. Thank you for creating this timeline that I could work through. But two, if you're asking the question, then you're only this far away from giving yourself the proper answer. All I'm doing is trying to direct people to think more. And it's good. If you're asking that question, you're thinking, what about, what if, how come, why, what do I need to do? Those are all great prepper questions to be asking ourselves. And it's not just about food or about water. Think about clothing. Do I need clothing? What's the point of clothing? Right? How about soap? Right? I don't ever mention soap. Might be a good idea to have a few bars of soap around. You don't need a stack of soap 10 feet high, though. You don't need a year's worth of soap. There's going to be an awful lot of soap, right, when people start offing themselves. By offing themselves and taking themselves out of the equation, either bugging out and dying somewhere else or being an asswipe and getting shot for it. Right? There's going to be plenty of soap. There's going to be lots of toothpaste. Those aren't things we need to worry about too much. Have some around, yes, but in a couple of months, it's just like guns. I like to say the most you're going to need of guns is like the first month of shit hitting the fan, right? You're definitely going to want a gun, and you're going to want to know how to use it. You're not going to need OJT while you get shot at while you figure out how to operate your gun. But after a month, there's going to be a plethora of guns. There is going to be an abundance of ammunition because there's going to be fewer people holding guns if it gets that bad. See what I'm saying? Every dead guy does not need to be buried with his sidearm, his shotgun, and his favorite assault weapon. No, those get taken off of people. Their boots get taken off of people. Their clothing, or what's left of it, gets taken off of them. Right? That's the way it's been in every shit it's the fan event. Going back 30, 40 years to the African nations, going back into Yugoslavia, Bosnia, going back into World War II, World War I, the Civil War. Right? When people die, they are relieved of their burdens, right? Their goods. There's going to be plenty of guns and ammo in about a month because there's lots of it out here, and it won't all get shot before people get shot up with it. Right? So I don't need to have 50,000 rounds of ammo, neither do you. And you don't need to have 50,000 bars of soap. Nobody does. But again, I'm hoping we have a shit it's the fan light. That's what I'm hoping for. But I'm preparing for Mad Max Armageddon style into the world as we know it. Because it just might happen. The idiots in Washington are proving to us, once again, that they are absolute, abject fools and idiots. Nancy Pelosi isn't going to cancel the State of the Union. I don't know if she has the power to or not, and it doesn't fucking matter. It just demonstrates to me how stupid these people are. How selfish and self-centered, how idealistic, how much of a bunch of ideologues and idiotic fools they are. These socialists. Right? They're the antithesis of freedom. They're the antithesis of the thinking mind. They believe that everyone deserves to live, and we don't. Just like everyone doesn't deserve to be a millionaire. You live by working hard. But they believe that they live by taking from others because someone else always has. When shit hits the fan, those people are out there, and they're going to believe that they should be eating because you have and they do not. Right? They believe that the food you own doesn't belong to you, that the gun you own doesn't belong to you. It belongs to them just as much. Just because you worked your ass off, took the time to buy it, right? And they ended up smoking a bunch of weed and sitting on the couch, so they're entitled to the same things that you are and to the exact things that you possess. That's their mentality. They're here. So even if we get a shit it's the fan light, you can bet that kind of stupid is waiting for you right outside your door. Ah, boy, I got to tell you, they're really making this one hell of a show this year. They're really getting it close. We're definitely getting closer to shit hitting the fan. So let's see if on Thursday, which is tonight, the president gives his speech in front of the world, or if Nancy Pelosi wants to throw down and show exactly what kind of showdown of stupidity we've got coming. And if they do cancel the State of the Union speech, you can pretty much bet shit is going to hit the fan sooner rather than later. Because if they're that ignorant and foolish now, imagine how ignorant and foolish they're going to continue to be through this government shutdown. And when the economic recession comes, how much stupider do you think they're going to be? You think the Democrats are just going to give up and go, gee whiz, I guess we shouldn't have questioned all of you right-thinking, intelligent, right, critical thinking people who understand how a nation actually works, right? Farmers doing work, miners doing work, people doing work and paying taxes. No, they're going to get more obstinate and stupid and may be more demanding. And you can count on it from idiots like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. These people. But that's what we got to look forward to. And they're in your neighborhood. I guarantee there's people just as stupid as Nancy Pelosi in all 50 states, and in every city there are people that stupid. And they are well represented by Nancy, are they not? Oh, yeah. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Chance favors, the prepared mind is yours. Be cool, semper fi, and Godspeed to all.